What's going on, everybody? It's your host, Moose. Feels good to be behind that microphone after a couple weeks off. Buc'ing Hangover coming right at you. Let's hit that intro.
Touchdown, Tampa Bay, fire those cannons.
Oh my.
Yes, everybody, good evening. Hope you're having a great night. It's a Tuesday night, and we're here with the Buc'ing Hangover. It's your host, Moose. Sorry, we took a week off. We had a little bit of a trip up to Seattle, and you know what that means. Let's bring in the co-host. He's here this week. It's MRod. MRod, you're wearing a mask, and I'm not sure why. I think you just tried
I want to talk about
I think you tried to drink a beer
Jason
with the mask
Licht.
on.
Remember the 2016 draft?
Oh,
Jason Licht.
Don't you worry about that. I have my full draft of Jason Licht's draft record from 2014. We're gonna talk about that later today.
Okay.
So great.
Well, I want to not anonymously talk bad about Jason Licht. So when we come back to that, maybe I'll put the mask back on.
Okay, so I'll give you fair warning, just in case he's watching out there. If you are, great, welcome, spread the word, give us a like. But yes, welcome.
I'm telling you, that guy has blackmail on the Glazers. That's how he got his extension. That's how he's still on the team. I don't want him getting blackmail on me. That's why I'm gonna wear a mask when I talk about him.
Yeah, I mean, we'll talk about him when we get there, but there has to be no other explanation as to why he is still GM of the Buccaneers, especially with some of the moves he's been making recently. But we'll get into all that. Welcome to the Buc'ing Hangover. Sorry we missed you for the Seattle episode. Both MRod and I were busy actually being at the Seattle game. Took us
and enjoying Seattle, so we aren't really sorry.
We're not sorry at all. We love Seattle.
We had a great time,
and we'll talk about that a little bit later in the show. But man, as you get into your 30s, taking a little day off, really work makes you pay, and then just not sleeping makes you pay. So we took a little bit of relaxation from the show, and we're back here with kind of a double episode. We'll talk about Arizona, and we'll talk about Seattle today as well. So, Mike, how have things been on your side of things?
Everything going good so far. Just still recovering a little bit from the Seattle trip. That jet lag, going coast to coast, and a 4-day span really catches up to you. But I think I'm good now. Glad to be back on the show. So yeah, how is everything going with you?
Everything's good. Just catching up on emails, catching up on work. But it was all worth it to get over to Seattle. But let's talk about Arizona first, since the most recent game. And in Seattle, we're not going to go in depth into stats and whatnot, but we'll talk about just Seattle, our impression, and seeing the game live. Seeing Bucs Nation out in Seattle, that was pretty exciting to see a pretty healthy showing of Buccaneers fans as well over there at CenturyLink Field. So let's talk about Arizona, kind of an ugly win, if you will. I think no win is ugly if you're a Buccaneers fan this year, especially the way things have been going. A little bit of a losing streak for us. I think the team looked pretty good, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
as good as they're going to look all year.
Think about it, you're right. There's no such thing as an ugly win, but I can see Arizona fans being like, "We really lost the damn Buccaneers." Like, come on, man, really? That's the team we lose to.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd put Arizona and the Bucs in the same kind of level of teams. I mean, if you're looking at your elites, you're looking at your kind of wild card playoff contenders. Then I think you have the Bucs and Cardinals, and some might say the Dolphins are working their way into that conversation now. And then you have a big pile of dirt
behind
and then
the Bucs.
Crap, and then the Cincinnati Bengals at the back of it all. So under all that, you have the Bengals and probably one of the New York teams in there as well. So,
but the Bengals actually can know how to tank correctly, where the Dolphins can't even tank correctly.
That's right. They put in Fitzmagic, and he is providing the Fitzmagic to get them to a mediocre draft pick. I haven't seen what the draft looks like. I think quarterback class looks pretty decent, but I'm hoping that they're not playing themselves out of out of a quarterback, because you know Cincinnati's going to go quarterback at number one. I mean, I don't know that the Jets or Giants and they are in that position.
Nah, they already have their quarterback, quote
So
unquote, for the
I think
future
I think the
right
Dolphins
now.
are going to be fairly safe. Maybe they're looking at Justin Herbert. Maybe they end up with Tua, because with Joe Burrow being a Ohio kid, I'm kind of thinking the Bengals might be leaning his way. Who
Yeah,
knows?
he's been playing really well too,
Yeah,
in a pro style offense with
he's gonna win the
pro style
Heisman this year.
playing against pro defenses at the same time. So it's been very impressive this year.
So let's talk about Arizona again. Kind of a nice bounce back game for the Buccaneers after a tough loss in Seattle. Honestly, that's a game that I almost want to say they should have won. A couple mistakes here and there. Again, what we've seen all year, costing them in the long run.
But
Jameis
you
had
know what?
yeah.
Well, they played Seattle really well. This is the game where I went in there, thinking I would have I would have betted on Seattle probably -7 if I was going to this game, possibly even -10 because Seattle was at home. They got the 12th man there. Considering Russell Wilson, how great he plays with our secondary, I think the Bucs played the best they could against this game. Going into overtime was actually exceeded expectations for all I thought.
No,
I thought we were
absolutely.
good.
I felt spoiled during the game. The Bucks had like a 21-7 lead at some point, and
Yep.
at the back of your head, you knew it was only time that till Russell Wilson really kicked it into gear, and you know I was disappointed we lost when we went there, but at the same time, I'm like, I mean, am I though? Is this is a game I had as an L on the calendar anyway, or the schedule anyway? So I think it was just tough feeling what victory in Seattle felt like, and then it was gone. So moving on to the Arizona game, James had a pretty solid game. Still two interceptions, that one in the red zone once again. He loves those opposition red zone opportunities that he likes giving away, where he throws a pick and the Cardinals were already in the red zone, resulting in another short drive. But for the most part, fairly efficient. I think over 60% passing. Had his one touchdown, almost 400 yards passing. Didn't really cost the Buccaneers the game. Once again, Mike Evans with another solid game, almost 200 yards receiving, and Peyton Barber was the leading rusher for the game.
Which game is this when you're talking about the Cardinals
So
game?
yeah, the stats would be Cardinals. Maybe I
Okay,
didn't.
yeah, because
Did I not update the
Evans
Mike
had
Evans?
82 yards.
Yeah, 82 yards. I may not have updated his stats. I think I
Yeah, that
updated.
was his Seattle stats
Right,
there.
right, yeah. So yeah, 11 for 198 in Seattle, but these are actually all Cardinal stats. I got too excited and didn't update these stats correctly. But regardless, Mike Evans had a solid game receiving. Let me move over to the Carolina stats. Yeah, he was the leading receiver anyway at 82 for Carolina, and actually, Ronald Jones, second leading receiver, 77
Yeah,
yards. So he
eight receptions
had a
and
solid game in the air, and Peyton Barber leading the way on the ground. Both of them with rushing touchdowns, I believe. And
yep.
Mr. Consistent, Levante David, another 8 tackle performance, 1 tackle for loss. I think no, it was Ndamukong Suh had a sack. And who else had a sack? Was it
Mr.
Shaq?
Barrett.
Shaq
Yeah,
got
it was
his.
the
I think he's
Shaqster.
up at 11.5 now.
And the OJ Howard had a touchdown, so it's nice to see him back and
That's
in
right.
the
His
passing game.
comeback
4
game.
receptions.
I mean, it looked better. It was another option for Jameis. I know OJ. We've kind of criticized him here a little bit. Uh, he looked good. He looked good. Maybe he's been battling injuries all year. Who knows? Those are things we'll never know as the public. You never want to make your injury report 100% honest. So hopefully we're seeing OJ coming back on the up and up. Uh, Overall, I was pretty pleased with the game. I felt it was a pretty good bounce back performance by the secondary. I think there's a couple questionable plays, and as I was doing some research for today and really kind of diving into the decision to release Vernon Hargraves, a couple lazy plays were pointed out by some of the Bucs bloggers I follow, where he wasn't really just running 100% towards the ball, or kind of had a bad read, resulting in a big gain, I think, on one of Christian Kirk's big receptions. So but I was really, and you heard me. I was so angry at the Seattle game with Jamel Dean, who one of our
Oh
2019
man.
draft picks. He was getting torched. DK Metcalf was destroying him, and he had a great game in Arizona. I don't know, night and day difference. I'm not going to say that Arizona's receiving core is right up there with Seattle's, especially now with the addition of Josh Gordon, but he looked so much better. And I'm almost thinking that I'm almost starting to believe in our secondary. Maybe not for this year, but I think I'm taking a step back from the ledge. I know I was calling for everyone's heads a few weeks ago, but I think we just have to give our secondary time to grow because we'll talk about our draft or Jason Light's drafts in a moment, but really we have a lot of rookies in our secondary, and I don't think I think I realized it, but at the same time, it's like, well, if you're starting the NFL, you should be playing NFL caliber football, but we got to give these guys time.
Yeah, and Jamel Dean, I mean, I think that was probably his first game playing. So more very limited amount of playing. So he was a little bit he looked lost out there. Like he looked like he did not know what the coverages were, where to stand. He was just chasing people around the entire game.
And to that point, I wanted to get into kind of team defense was really one of the strengths of the Arizona game. Despite giving up 27 points, they limited Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray wasn't running around. I think he was held under 40 yards rushing. David Johnson, disappointment. I've heard that he might be able to. I think in fantasy circles he's able to be cut now. This is one of the stories I read now. He used to be on the can't cut list, but now you can cut him because he
was a first round. He was a first rounder. Been a first rounder for him.
I don't know. I've always stayed away from David Johnson. I've never trusted or believed in him, and yeah, it's really sad to see his decline. Kenyon Drake had a couple good carries for him, which I think was a good pickup for him at the trade deadline. But again, for the most part, pass rush was there. Linebackers looked good. Secondary looked as good as they could, other than giving up almost 200 yards to Christian Kirk. Had a couple breakdowns in coverage, but bend but don't break, and I will take that at this stage of the season. If we can cobble out a couple more wins, maybe get to 6 or 7, I'd say let's call that a success. It's good to see JPP back as well. Definitely wreaking havoc out there. I think the rushing game did okay, and I mean the stats aren't going to suggest that. We didn't have a 100-yard rusher or anything, but I think the Cardinals had to respect the run enough that it opened up the passing a little bit for Jameis Winston. He was able to have some time to complete some passes to our receivers.
And believe it or not, Buccaneers actually have the best rushing defense in the NFL.
That's right. I mean, that's kind of been our Achilles heel, right? That's fine. We're not going to rush on you. We'll just throw the ball 50 times a game, and that's how we're going to beat you. And it's really forced our secondary to perform.
And that's what Russell Wilson did. He took complete advantage of Jamal Dean and the inexperience there in the secondary.
Because they tried to run the ball, but I knew going into halftime there were going to be some hardcore halftime adjustments as we kind of get talk a little bit about Seattle, and that's what happened. I mean, they came out firing immediately, really minimizing the uses of Chris Carson in the running game. Just, they attacked the Bucs' weakness. They went after Jamel Dean. They went after some of our other young defensive backs, and that was the end of that. So again, just as our usual segment, right? What needs improvement, and I think as we get into week 10, week 11, I think we're level setting, and we know that the Bucs aren't going to make the playoffs. We know that it might be a couple years more until they might be in the conversation, especially with anticipated changes at the quarterback position. But I think it was good to see them in person and have that reaction to Jamel Dean, but really step back and just recognize that he has a lot of upside. And I think I just got to be patient and give this secondary some time to mature and really find their way. What are your thoughts?
My thoughts are, maturing is one thing. The secondary, we got some players on there are second or third year players. Carlton Davis and Jay Stewart, they're second year players. We have Vernon Hargreaves, who's like a third or fourth year player, and we've seen how
anymore.
Just got cut. So that was another wasted first round pick there by good old Mr. Licht. But anyways, I think what we need to do is we just need to be more aggressive in free agency when it comes to the secondary. I don't remember last time we signed somebody or made a move towards secondary at all. Last guy I can think of
Revis
is
Island.
maybe
Revis Island.
yeah, he played phenomenal for us when he was here. But he was a trade, not really free agency. We
Right.
gave him like maybe like first or second or two first round picks to the Jets to get him. But we just need to be more active. I mean, Gary and Conley, third round pick is what the Texans traded for him from the Raiders. I mean, the Bucs could have given up a second round pick. I mean, why not? I mean, we screw up the second round every single time, so might as well give something up to get somebody that we know can play. Patrick Peterson, he's another player who's out there, a little bit on the older side, but I still think he's better than anything we have. And if we can just get I say just two secondary players, and that's going to be the difference. I mean, I think this team could be, instead of 3-6, it could be a 6-3 team or a 7-3 team if we just had the right secondary back there.
I think you bring a great point up about Peterson, especially with a young core. I mean, maybe he's playing nickel, or maybe he's in the dime package. But we need a mentor for these young kids. Right now, they are learning on their own, and we're relying on Todd Bowles with his defensive mind to really teach these kids. It would be nice to have that veteran presence because Buccaneers defense is, other than Ndamukong Suh, I guess, is the youngest member of the core defense, if you will, or the oldest, the most tenured. I guess Levante's been here a couple years, so with David and Ndamukong Suh, who's let's face it, probably a 1-year rental for the Bucs. Just seeing if we hit something. That'd be nice. I've liked his play, so I wouldn't be sad if they re-signed him, hopefully at the right price. But other than that, I mean, it's very little on the veteran support. Honestly, even on the offensive side of the ball, it's a pretty young team.
Even our rookie linebacker Devin Smith actually looked pretty good at that Seahawks game as well.
Yeah.
He just chases people down. He's got so much speed for his size. It's ridiculous.
And he looked. He was, man. I think I was watching a play in the Arizona game where, he was coming in to just deflected a ball, and it still got to the receiver, and he caught the touchdown. He was so mad. But again, he is flying around there. We'll talk about the 2019 draft when we get to talking about Jason Licht and what his legacy may be should he see the door in the upcoming future, and maybe the Bucs move on to a new GM. So looking at our standings, this has been very convenient. I haven't had to change the teams up at all. I just have to go in and update records. It's been really nice. So I appreciate the Bucs and all the other NFC teams for making my life easy. Just got to change some numbers around. But no surprise, the Saints are running away with the division. Be nice if Carolina made a little push for it, but I think Kyle Allen's still a little bit of a question mark. He's played solid, but not an X factor, at least right now. They got to be carried by Christian McCaffrey, and I'd love the Bucs to get to 6-10. I think they got 2 games against Atlanta. They'll probably find a way to lose one of them.
Atlanta just beat the Saints. So.
Right. So that's what I'm saying is you just don't know what you're going to get from Atlanta, and Atlanta has the capability of they can score some points.
Yeah, they got a good offense, good weapons. 2 good receivers, good running back. Great quarterback. Tight end's been emerging. I think he's like number 1 tight end right now when it comes to yards and touchdowns.
Then you were talking a little bit about your dislike for Gerald McCoy and how he's found his second purpose in life to once again be good at football with the Carolina Panthers.
I'm saying, when he was here in the Bucs, he was okay, not as good as he is now, and he missed a courtesy 6 to 8 games a year. Now he's not missing any games. He's playing great. Wish he would have played like that here, but I guess here he feels like he's got a playoff hard team to play for. I guess when you're 3-6 or 5-10, you kind of like lose the motivation to play. So
yeah,
that's probably what happened with.
Absolutely, and then kind of a barn burner last night. Seeing 2 NFC leaders, 49ers going down against those pesky Seahawks in a thriller on Monday night, finally. A thrilling Monday night football game. San Francisco's the real deal. I kind of, I said that last time we talked about them, but really seeing them go to toe-to-toe, and they probably a couple plays here and there should have won that game against the Seahawks. I don't know if I totally trust Jimmy Garoppolo to get me out of a sticky situation, but that San Francisco defense and their running game is not to be messed with.
No, they got a great running game, great defense. It's just they're always going to struggle if they're down and you have to put the ball in Jimmy Garoppolo's hands. That's when it's going to be the biggest challenge for them. Jimmy Garoppolo doesn't look like the same guy that we saw when he won 5 straight games for the 49ers. I know he was out last year with the ACL, but this year he just hasn't. He's had a couple good games, but he hasn't had that whole all right, you put the ball in this guy's hands and we're going to get through it. Or, hey, Jimmy Garoppolo, we have the lead or we're down by a touchdown. We need Jimmy Garoppolo to make a play. We're confident. He doesn't have that, and that's I think the Achilles heels of that team is Jimmy Garoppolo at the moment.
So we'll see as they finish up the season where they end up. I think that was the first time they played the Seahawks this year, so they'll play them once more. And I haven't looked at this 49ers slate the rest of the way, and in terms of difficulty.
They got a tough schedule. They got a tough schedule, and we talked about this last time how the first half was kind of not that hard for them. They will start off 8-0. But their second half schedule is pretty tough. So if they can just go 4-4 in the second half of the schedule, they're looking at number
first round bye, hopefully. Yep. So we'll move on to what's next for the Bucs, and it's our familiar foes, the New Orleans Saints. It'll be a home game for the Buccaneers. Hopefully, more than 40,000 people show up for this one. Kind of low times for the Bucs.
25,000 being Saints fans.
Probably 40,000 being Saints fans, and maybe 25,000 if they sell out being Bucs fans. But I think I'm really scared about this game because you saw the Saints kind of get dominated a little bit by the Falcons. Not sure if it was a letdown game for them. Maybe like the NFL, the NBA's doing. They're having body maintenance days or scheduled rest days.
Workload management.
Workload management, yeah, that's the term. Workload management, and they kind of took it easy. But I don't know if I would be surprised if the Bucs took this game. I just think the Saints have to find a way to bounce back, especially with Drew Brees getting back into it, coming off injury a week or two ago.
I think this is going to be a bounce back game, and the Saints are going to take it out on the Bucs. And this is going to be a game where Drew Brees probably throws about 5 to 6 touchdowns.
Man, we are optimistic as they come. So next Sunday we'll have the Saints.
You just got to take advantage of that secondary. Is all he's got to do.
Yeah,
it's not going to be that hard to do it.
And Drew Brees is a surgeon. We've seen him I've seen him in person. We've seen him on TV. Once he senses that weakness, they will attack. So we'll see how close the Bucs can keep it next week. Curious to see what the lines are. I haven't looked at them yet. I'm sure we'll talk about it in a few days on our next episode of $10 Sports. So keep tuned in for that. So moving in as we close the show, kind of our hot topics. Wanted to talk a little bit about Seattle and the Seahawks atmosphere. I was really impressed, and I was really excited that this was the official man cave or the man trip chosen for the year, going to Seattle. What an atmosphere! I mean, standing for the whole game, I almost felt like I was in Notre Dame Stadium again. We were only a section away from each other, so it was really nice to kind of see you guys up there and wave. So, what were your thoughts about Seattle and the atmosphere?
I thought the stadium, for being about 12, 13, 14 years old, I thought it looked pretty new. It was a beautiful stadium. I loved the just all the fans staying the whole game. I love the whole 12th man thing, how they retired a number 12 for the fans. No one can ever be number 12, which kind of made me think about it yesterday. So Josh Gordon's number was always been number 12. He goes to the two teams where he can't be number 12. The Patriots, obviously you can't take Brady's number, and the Seahawks, who retired number 12.
It's a tough life.
He goes to two teams where he can't have his number. But anyways, but I just, fans are very passionate. I mean, you went in there a little bit scared wearing your Bucs jersey, thought you were going to get heckled and stuff, but I didn't sense that at all. I thought the fans were all pretty cool. And you know how I am at games. You didn't send my section, but I usually talk smack. But I always talk smack to the other fans, but I do it in a friendly way where we just shake hands throughout the game and stuff like that, and we joke around. But it was a good time. I really enjoyed it.
And I know you. I think one of the biggest comebacks or bringbacks from that game, or from our experience, was you finding a beer that is not Michelob Ultra. I think that's really what made my weekend. There it is. He brought back a 12-pack of Rainier, which is probably the equivalent of garbage beer in Washington State. But I liked it. I enjoyed my tall boys I had of Rainier.
Yeah, they weren't expensive. The beer that I can tolerate. Anybody that knows me knows that I drink only Mick Ultra, and that's it. And for me to drink another beer, it has to be there's absolutely no other options, and I really need it. But other than that, it's Mick Ultra or bust. But Rainier was pretty good. Moose, what would you say Rainier tastes like as a beer that's kind of mainstream that people may have had?
Mainstream, I don't know. I kind of compared it to PBR and kind of it tastes a little bit like Lone Star here in Texas. It's kind of in that tier of PBR, Lone Star, kind of a light beer, refreshing. I mean, I enjoy a good Lone Star PBR when the mood strikes. So I think that's what I would compare it to.
Okay. Yeah, well, I don't really like PBR at all, but I enjoyed this one.
So what else can we talk about Seattle? The game. I mean, again, really a surprising start. Bucs took the ball at the kickoff. I think they won the toss, and they elected to receive, and they drove down the field. I think a solid 75-yard drive after the touchback.
Yeah.
Scored a touchdown, kind of quieting the crowd. To that effect, of course, Seattle came right back and scored to tie it at 7. And then the Bucs really took control for most of the first half, getting up to as high as 21-7. And then had an opportunity to go up 24. Matt Gay missing a field goal. And then Seahawks made it, I think it was 21-14. And I think it was 21-17 by the half with them kicking a field goal at the end, or 24-14 or something like that. And then it all kind of fell apart. We were really just holding on for our dear lives, knowing that DK Metcalf and company were going to be getting wide open, and we saw the
Tyler Lockett too. Tyler Lockett had a hell of a
gosh.
game too.
And we saw the struggles of Jamel Dean firsthand. He was always about 5 yards behind the Seahawks receiver who was running towards the end zone. It's kind of a tough outing for the Bucs. Great effort to tie it at the end. Still some question. I mean, we kind of went back and forth on questionable play calling at the end, especially to rush up and score the touchdown to tie. I mean, I know you should always take the points and score them as quickly as possible, but first and goal from the one.
It's the Buccaneers. You got to take the points when you can get them.
I know. I knew leaving 47 seconds was enough.
We're not the type of team. Jameis Winston's not the type of quarterback where you can manage the clock and do that. I mean, Jameis Winston, the Bucs. You score when you can. If it's first down, you score on first down if you can. Score when
you're right.
You don't take chances.
And I was just heated. I'm like, why are we gonna give Russell Wilson 45 seconds to just go like basically 30 yards to get in a field goal range or whatever it was? And lo and behold, they got into field goal range, and thankfully they missed the kick, because had they made that kick, that would have been my big point of like, why did we score so fast? It was first and goal. Drive to leave them no time, but at the end, didn't really matter. I think one of the big winners was our buddy John, who went to the game as well. Who he had Seahawks -6, so he was able. Had they made the field goal and won, he actually would have lost his bet. He was able to get a push and get his money back, so he was really excited about that. Pre-game atmosphere was great. I mean, it's not your traditional, tailgating. There's really nowhere to park unless we missed the tailgating scenes on the parallel parking spots, which I don't think I saw. They have such a great bar scene around there. It made me jealous, wishing that the Bucs had kind of a downtown stadium with that type of atmosphere.
Yeah, and that bar we went to was actually like a pretty cool little bar.
Yeah, no,
it was 2 stories, had good food, had a bunch of TVs, a lot of Seahawks fans in there, of course, a couple Bucs fans, all watching all the earlier games, the East Coast games, and they were all just there having a great time. It was very crowded, but it wasn't too bad, and we just had a great time, great atmosphere. Something you really don't see much at the Tampa Bay area when it comes to game time.
Not anymore, at least. I mean, I remember when we were growing up, Raymond James Stadium used to be a tough place to play. I mean, it was very rare to see opposing fans. It was always 120 degrees on the field and sold out. It's just what it used to be. I hope we get there again one day. So moving on to kind of an odd midweek release of Vernon Hargraves. I mean, am I surprised? Not really. I'm surprised. I think the only reason I'm surprised is because we're really sacrificing defensive back depth. I mean, he must have really either been bad for the locker room or just had a bad attitude enough that we were willing to part ways with a fourth-year player with his level of experience to basically start three rookies at corner and safety. What were your reactions knowing when you heard the news?
Oh, I just said when I looked at it, I was a little surprised. I'm not gonna lie, Vernon Hargreaves. I mean, first round, 11th overall pick, 2016 draft. I was a little surprised by that, but I mean, he really, he was out last year for the whole year with an injury. Came back this year, really didn't show any signs of improvement over his first 2 years, and I mean, from what I was looking at, it looks like he gave up on some plays, was not showing 100% effort. So, I mean, they just don't want to. I guess the Bucs trying to set the standard that, hey, you don't give effort, we don't want you here. So he probably was more like I'm guessing it was like a statement move, to be honest with you, and it was like hopefully to get everybody else into shape. But just another one of Jason Licht's infamous draft picks wasted. It's the way I look at it.
Yeah, let's talk about him for a little bit. I'll give you some time to put the mask on if you want.
That's okay. I'm just
gonna go maskless. All right.
Yeah.
So, I think we wonder every year. We wonder. You and I have a conversation with of course, with our other Buccaneers friends. Every year after the draft, we have the same conversation. Every year after the off season, we have the free agent signing period, we have the same conversation. How is this guy still the GM of the Buccaneers? Some of the moves he makes are questionable at best. And I pulled out the list of his 6 drafts, and the 2016 draft, like you said, is the most infamous draft. Vernon Hargreaves no longer the team. Noah Spence no longer the team. Roberto Aguayo no longer on the team. Then we kind of give mulligans to round 5, 6, and 7. Bond, Vitale, and Beninock. The only person on the team who still from the 2016 draft, Ryan Smith, who is like an exclusive special teams player, and he'll get out whenever we need 5 defensive backs. I guess he's our 5th defensive back, but only player from the 2016 draft that is still on the team. So I wanted to look back at the historical drafts here, and 2014 was his first draft, first pick ever, knocked it out of the park with Mike Evans, of course. Then the infamous Austin Seferian-Jenkins, and how
the rest from here is downhill.
Yeah, it's downhill from here.
I know this draft already.
We got a little bit of production from Charles Sims. Charles Sims looked okay at times, but again, no longer with the Buccaneers.
Causes a lot of fumbles. And
Lots of fumbles, and then, like I said, we always kind of give mulligans to 5, 6, and 7. You had Kadeem Edwards. I don't even know if he saw the field. Kevin Pamphile and Robert Harrow.
This is what I look at. I know this is all hindsight. Let me wrong. It's all hindsight. So I look at the second round, and the Bucs took
Austin Seferian-Jenkins.
Yeah, Austin Seferian-Jenkins.
Who was the second round pick in 2015?
Hold on. I'm trying to see. Okay, so we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This about the 7th pick in the draft. So players, I'm just going to name notable players that went after Austin Seferian-Jenkins. Devontae Adams, Allen Robinson, Jarvis Landry. All went in the second round after Austin Seferian-Jenkins. So you're telling me, Jarvis Landry was obviously a great talent. Like, I don't get how his guy fell to almost the last pick in the second round. This guy has always been a great talent. Even in college, he was great. So I'm not sure what happened there. Allen Robinson, okay, he went to Penn State. He was good, nothing flashy. Devontae Adams, Fresno State. I think he was just kind of one of those hidden gems that the Packers found. But come on. 3 Pro Bowlers after that. But yeah, I don't remember Austin Fearon Jenkins' name in college. I don't remember hearing his name until we got drafted. I was like, who the hell is this guy? But
Everyone will tell you it's because he played at Washington, and Pac-12 doesn't get enough love over here. But moving to 2015, of course, first overall pick, Jameis Winston.
And like I've always said, we always jack up the second round. We should never pick a second round. We should always trade that away for a
second round pick.
No,
Donovan Smith. Donovan Smith.
Yep. He's basically the express lane for defensive linemen to Jameis Winston, pretty much.
Definition of turnstile. I don't even think he's starting, but still making like $10 million a year. This draft did yield Ali Marpet, probably one of the better guards in the league. Quan Alexander, I think, played pretty well when he was with us.
Yeah, he obviously did. San Francisco played him pretty well. He looked pretty good over there. I know he was injured this past game, but yeah, he's looked great. So I give him Quan and Ali. I give him that one.
Yeah, I give him Jameis. Jameis has played okay. Then, of course, we always give a pass on 5, 6, and 7. Kenny Bell. Was it Kevin Clay?
Quan Alexander was actually a 4th-round pick, and he was a Pro Bowler too with us.
And then we talked about 2016, 2017. First round pick, O.J. Howard, of course.
No, let's go back to 2016. 2016, we had obviously Hargreaves, and then in the second round, we went with Noah Spence, and then Roberto Aguayo. What did we do in the 3rd round? We didn't have a 3rd round because we traded.
Ryan Smith was 4th round.
Right, 4th round, but we traded away, I believe, our 3rd round pick to trade up into the end of the second to get Aguayo. So let's just move on from there.
The 2017 O.J. Howard, 1st round pick.
Which O.J. Howard, his statement was, we drafted our position of most need, a tight end. Really was our most needed position when we had Cameron Bate, who was playing just fine. Was that our biggest area of need? I don't want to say bad about O.J. Howard. I just think O.J. Howard is not in the right system for him. I think this guy can go to the Patriots, go to another team and flourish and be one of the top 5 tight ends in the game. He's got the size, speed, build. I think he's very mature.
Is part of not being in the right system the quarterback he has, though?
No, the guy spends 80-90% of his time blocking.
Right.
And, and
Bruce that's what I'm saying. So that's part of this. The problem with the system is we don't have a tackle that can hold his own. He has to have help from a tight end half the time.
For sure, and also Bruce Arians' system has never really utilized a tight end much, other than a blocker. But that's just Bruce Arians' system. But I just think O.J. Howard was not the draft pick we should have gone with that year, especially since we had Cameron Brate. There was a lot of players after him that I think would have addressed our needs a little bit better, such as a secondary.
Yeah, but we did end up with Justin Evans.
Where's Justin Evans at today?
You tell me.
I think if I'm not mistaken, I think he was the guy that picked me up from Tampa in the Uber, if I'm not mistaken.
I think he was our 2nd round pick, right? Justin Evans. We did get Chris Godwin in the 2017 draft, 3rd round pick.
Okay. I'll give him that. And you can ask my boy Chaz. I talked to a lot about football. In the 2nd round, I said we should have gone with Juju Smith-Schuster, but I don't know much. I'm just
Justin Evans.
Look at Kamara. Kamara was a 3rd round pick. I think Kamara would have handled our running back issue, which I don't know why he dropped down to the 3rd round, to be honest with you. So I know he was a projected 1st rounder before the draft started and earlier on in the draft. I don't know if he had a bad combine or something, but he dropped down pretty low there.
So moving into 2018 and 2019, I actually think this is where Light's drafting.
Kendall Beckwith was a supplemental 3rd round. It wasn't bad, but he just really got that ankle injury from a car accident. I don't think he's ever recovered from it, so never got to see.
I think really 2018, 2019 is where I would argue that there are actually some pretty decent picks, and I think time will tell. So, of course, 1st round pick, which I think was a surprise and I remember you were there live when we picked Vita Vea. You were
Yeah,
at the
that one
draft
was-
party. That was kind of
yeah,
a
I
head
was
scratcher at
actually-
the time.
Yeah, that was actually I'd spent before the draft started. I actually had a pretty good in-depth conversation with a Buccaneer great, Jeff Gooch, and
Gooch.
he so we were having a conversation about the draft, and he told me from our conversation we're talking about kind of like where we think we were going to go. He thought Darnold was going 1. He was surprised when Mayfield actually went 1. And we had a conversation about the Bucs, and he kind of just told me, he's like, yeah, I really don't know. I'm not in the war room, but the vibe I'm getting is we're going Derwin James. So Buccaneers trade down from the 7th because they were originally 7th. They trade down with the Bills. Bills take Josh Allen. We trade down to number 11. And what do you know? Minka Fitzpatrick went at 11. We actually trade down 12. I'm sorry. And we were, all right, Minka Fitzpatrick is gone. Derwin James is still on the board. Did we really just trade down and still getting the guy we wanted to? So everyone was all excited about Derwin James, who made the Pro Bowl his rookie year. Make that there. But we went ahead and we took Vita Vea, who I never heard of until the draft. I don't know.
You gotta stay up later, man. Watch some of those Pac-12 games. I saw some Vita Vea.
Yeah, but still. Was I don't know. Like I said, we needed secondary help, and we go with the defense tackle. Which I get it. You want pressure on the quarterback, et cetera, et cetera. But we had Gerald McCoy.
I think at that point we needed defensive help and pass rush help because the secondary was bad, but we weren't even putting pressure. At least now we're putting pressure on the quarterback, and I'm kind of happy we have a secondary problem because before it was 4 guys pass rushing and not even getting past the line of scrimmage. And
but it was defensive tackle, and we had a sometimes healthy Gerald McCoy. I just don't think that was where we needed to go. We were kind of like building, but I guess it was kind of anticipation that we were going to cut Gerald McCoy next year. So I guess they just wanted to move on for that. From that,
I was going to say a second round pick in 2018, Rojo. Jury's still out. I support Rojo. I'm okay with Rojo.
Rojo appeared to be a bust after the first season and beginning of this year, but seems like he's playing a little bit better. So,
we're making him the feature back. We've been trying to run a 3 or 4 man platoon at running back. When we finally stuck with him, he had a great game in Seattle. He played extremely well in Seattle.
And the Bucs had 3 second-round picks this draft.
That's right. Rojo, MJ Stewart, who I think is a starter for us, Carlton Davis, who's probably our de facto number 1 cornerback now with the exit of Vernon Hargreaves. I think he's still hurt, but he's technically, I guess, the guy now at number 1.
Which I still understand why the Bucs didn't go Greedy Williams, but Green was this year actually. Never mind.
And then Alex Kappa was from that draft as well, who's up and coming offensive lineman. And then of course we always give our passes for 5, 6, and 7. Jordan Whitehead, Justin Watson, and Jack Cicci. 2019 draft. We all know about Devin White. Second round pick though.
Which I wasn't excited about. I kind of wanted Josh Allen. It's the guy that I wanted, who is actually leading rookies in sacks. But anyways, it's what it is.
I like that. After doing some research, I was okay with Devin White. But Murphy Bunting, who's I think going to be a star eventually, hopefully in the secondary, was our second round pick last year or this past draft. And this is also where we drafted Jamel Dean as well. And Mike Edwards. Yeah, 3rd round. When then of course Matt Gay, 5th round draft pick.
Oh, you don't want to draft a kicker, but Matt Gay's missed some kicks, but I think he's done a lot better than our past 4 or 5 years worth of kicking. So,
I would say so. I think he's only missed. I think he's 18 out of 21 or 19 out of 22. So I'll take that. Almost 90%.
He missed the one against the Giants that we lost.
Missed one against the Seahawks too.
And missed the Seahawks one that I'm not saying we would have won that game, but I mean, we probably could have had a better shot at winning.
And Scotty Miller drafted last year.
Mike
And
Edwards.
Mike Edwards and Terry Beckner, who's no longer with us after I think he came up positive for PEDs and was cut.
Right.
So, I don't know. I feel like he's been drafting better recently, at least. He's had better drafts the last 2 years. I could even almost argue 2017 was a decent draft with Chris Godwin developing the way he's developing. And I think the jury's still out on O.J. Howard. So, I don't know. I wouldn't be sad if we parted ways and brought in a new GM that maybe is a better fit with Bruce Arians. But, I don't know. Maybe it's time.
Yeah, I'd say it is.
Wanted to close out tonight's show, just kind of is Bruce really the guy? And I'm hoping that we're not having nightmares of Lovie Smith, where we bring in an experienced NFL coach and it's just Tank City and it's not good. Coaching's been on my mind lately, especially when I think in the Arizona game, Bruce tried to. First of all, why coaches are still challenging pass interference is beyond me, knowing that the NFL referees are not going to change pass interference calls, but he still is trying in Week 10. But best coaching decision of the year, he forgot that he used his challenge, and when he needed a challenge, a play that needed to be challenged, he didn't have a challenge. He threw the challenge flag and costed the Bucs their second timeout of the second half. So the Bucs have one timeout for the rest of the game about halfway through the third quarter. It's just, you're getting close to 70 years old. You've been out of the game for so long, for a couple of years. I mean, is this the guy that's going to take us to the next level? I mean, I was excited when we hired him. It's like, all right, well, he's got the pedigree, he's got the experience, but in 10, 11 games, 10 weeks in, is this the guy?
Yeah, I mean, I think the jury's still in with him. I mean, he didn't exactly inherit a great quarterback.
But he's the quarterback whisperer.
Yeah, but I mean, what is he whispering, though?
His novel, The Quarterback Whisperer.
I mean, I'm not going to say what I'm thinking, but yeah, the idea is, you can't, I guess could say you can't really expect the coach to turn the team around in 1 year, but then there's Sean McVay and Matt Nagy and those coaches, so I guess you can. But I think he's been out of the game for a while. He wasn't even offensive coordinator last year or the year before that, so I think he's still trying to find out what he has and how to utilize it. I mean, Jameis Winston just being Jameis, so I think we'll see next year, because I really don't think we extend him. We get a new quarterback in there, see kind of like how he plays with a quarterback that he chooses, that he wants, and kind of see how that works out. So,
great. So that'll bring us to an end of our double episode of Buc'ing Hangover. Hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to give us a follow on Twitter at $10 Sports. You'll see it right there on the screen for you at $10 Sports to follow Moose. And I'm going to get it right this time, mostly because it's on the screen. Following MRod on Twitter at Balls Brews Bros. All together, Balls Brews Bros, just like our live show, Balls Brews Bros, which we're due to make one up in the next few weeks, hopefully. That's been it for us at Buc'ing Hangover. We will see you after the Saints game this Sunday. I think we'll have an episode of $10 Sports coming up. I know we missed last week. I'm glad I did not wager on games last week, because it was upset city. All my parlays would have been ruined, I'm sure. So it was great to take a break from sports gambling last week, but we'll be right back at it this week with $10 Sports, probably on Thursday, and we'll be right back with the Thunderdome Puckcast. I have taken a week and a half off. Lightning have traveled through New York and to and from Sweden in the time that we've had a Thunderdome Puckcast. So we have plenty to talk about there as well on the Tampa Bay Lightning front. So I've been your host, Moose. Thank you so much for joining us tonight on the Buc'ing Hangover. We'll see you next week. Have a great week. Go Bucs.
Yeah, have a great night, everyone, and thanks for tuning in.
Touchdown, Tampa Bay. Fire those cannons.
Oh, my.
Playoffs? Don't talk about playoffs. You kidding me? Playoffs?